genesis of this event. I think the idea initially was to have this event in a bar. We wanted to have this event literally in a bar. Like if anyone has ever been to benchwarmers, wanted to put screens in a bar and allow people to speak about their dissertations as they drink beer. Right? We wanted people to just make education cool and fun and accessible. Right? Then logistics came. Then the next idea was like, okay, we can't cancel it. Let's have it online. I hate online things. I really hate online things because essentially we want to see each other in a screen and it doesn't work, right? But also, unfortunately, I also think things that are too full don't allow for enough interaction. So there are events for 20,000 people. And that's okay. I think we need them. There are events for 200 or 50 people. But I also think there are certain conversations that we should be able to be frank about. And I also think the smaller the crowd, the better the interaction. Obviously, we want to, whatever knowledge we share with society, we want to put it in video clips and share certain portions properly. But I just wanted to give you the context that I've called you here deliberately, all of you, to just have a discussion, talk about the state of infrastructure, especially in local government. Obviously, there are elections coming. It's obvious, right? So there's a high interest in terms of what's happening, what are the problems, why traffic lights not working, why don't we have water? And I said to myself, look, engineers speak amongst themselves in corners. Government officials also, I think, sometimes speak to themselves in corners. So I wanted just to open a conversation between people in government who deal with these things every day, and so that they can share with us what's actually happening. I know one of my colleagues, even at work, they said, no, they're not coming to this event because they are tired of the government. The government is useless. I'm like, yeah, but if you don't interact with them, maybe you learn a thing or two. Maybe you actually understand what's the challenge, or maybe you can give solutions. So before we start, that's for me just the pre-case of the event, that the idea is for us to have genuine, real conversations about things that matter. There will be a section where I'm going to ask my camera team to just pause it a bit and let's get into the nitty-gritties of things. But before I continue even further, I'm going to just ask the hosts to just maybe share a few words with us as he welcomes us to his place, but also tells us a bit about what they do. Because everyone was shocked, this place looks nice, what happens here? So I don't know, is it you or Bonnie? But over to you.
Good afternoon. Is it afternoon?
Yes.
Is it evening, Sanbona? So, I think it's such a privilege for us to host you for this. These are our offices. This is where we base as a business. It's called EmpowerWorks. I started this business almost 20 years ago. And what we do here, we do four things. We develop our own, platforms. We call them ecosystems. We're focusing on youth, on women, entrepreneurs, and men. We're about to host the biggest gathering of men, where we're hosting up to 4,000 men. And this morning we had an opportunity to meet the former president, Dr. Kgalema Motlanthe, to keynote that gathering. And then we have Empower Youth. We've done up to 300,000 young people to date. Then we have Empower Women. We run programs for women. So tomorrow we're having what we call Women on Boards. We run sector-specific conversations, women in media and mining, and then it culminates into the biggest summit. We're hosting a biggest summit here for the first time. We'll be hosting up to 500 people because next year we also own it. We're putting a marquee here, and then we'll have multiple conversations. And then it culminates into something called Bubbles and Neighbors, where we host up to 100 CEOs and entrepreneurs. We have something called Empower Entrepreneurs, where we're connecting ideas to capital. It's funded or anchored by ABSA. Then the second offering is where we represent talent. We are the biggest speakers bureau in the country and also in the continent. We have close to 240 top speakers that we could think of, predominantly African speakers, from Professor Marwala to Bonang Mohale to the former deputy president of the country, Somlomo. Thank you. She facilitated this. We've done up to 4 ministers here, having this conversation, and I just love this space. If you have opportunities, whether it's a board meeting, it's a campaign, it's an event you're looking for talent, a lot of organizations that work with us, whether from a strategy, AI, to team building, to trends, to governance, anyone in that space, we have up to 240, that sits in our, it's called the Speakers Fam, yeah. And then we have the third offering, it's an executive education wing. I think Maningena, you saw there's a small building outside. It's a mini campus. We'll be running up to 50 programs exclusively for senior executives, municipal managers, leaders, around AI, around media training, and we keep it for 30 to 40 senior executives. It's an in and out, programs. And it's facilitated by seasoned people. If you look at our media training, it's done by Martin Fosi, who worked for BBC, the visiting professor there is Professor Mandla Khatebe. AI is done by a seasoned person, so other programs that we have. The last one is what we do for clients. Clients that will say, look, can you run a campaign for us? Can you do something on reputation management, on PR, on events? We have the capacity to do that. What I want to do, and I think I spoke to the big doctor, that we've been doing Empower Youth for the past 7 years. We've done up to 250,000 young people. And we've done it Guruleni. We did take Guruleni 2 years ago.
Last year.
Was it last year?
Last year.
Oh yeah, we did last year. And I go back, what change is it?
Yes.
Yeah, we did, I think, up to 5,000 young people. But normally we want to start from 4,000 and above, because, and that's why we want to show you the scope and scale. We're just inviting you in any way or format, if you want to come and partner, with us. Let me extend my gratitude to Tsepo for choosing this venue. We are not hiring the venue, as I said. It's not a, we only give this venue to people that we love the most. People that you love, the ones that you don't love, we take them to McDonald's. And the ones that you love,
bench warmers.
You bring and also thanks to Somlong.
Thank you
for facilitating. This is Bonnie. Bonnie, she's our chief of staff, and she runs the operations. Yeah. We're gonna give you one of this, but we just want to play this so that at least when this is one of our assets of our platform, so that at least you have a view. Even when we do empowerment, we do 4,000 men, Machita, we invite to. You'll see if you buy Maiden Guardian. Maiden Guardian is one of our partners, so it's GQ, the Star, and all that. Please do come, and it's a full day of experience. Can you play this before?
241,000 to a staggering 4.9 million people out of work.
Empower youth, that is already sounding like such a positive thing. The Orange Farm Empower Youth Transformation Program.
It's a youth movement by the name of Empower Youth.
Before the end of this year, 2023, we will have visited the Eastern Cape, the Northern Cape, the Free State, and we will be left with one province to visit, being the Western Cape.
The aim of the Empower Youth League, which is such a progressive initiative that is aimed at advancing the interests of young people.
We need to create, we need to support these platforms everywhere where there are young.
You need you to dream. You need you to get employed. You need you to start a business.
Thank you. This is Empower Youth. As I said, we are replicating this throughout. And when I was talking to the big doctor, that this is the scale that we want to, stage this one in the east. The toilets at that side. One move at that side on your right. And then if you want coffee, I think. The ladies, our OC will take out, but he will be here. Is there any announcement, please?
No.
If I just chill, relax, if reaching out, then it will be chance. Thank you so much, colleagues.
So are we allowed, can I break protocol just for a second to ask a question?
Yeah.
Thanks for the inspiring video. I can't keep the question anyway. So I'm Kucho Sipuru. I run an ICT company and train quite a number of youth as well. This is a bit of the profile. However, the question is, when you talk about platforms here, you mean the stage, the crowd, the setup, bringing people in, or also digital platforms?
No, we are not. It's only now that we're developing the app. But when we talk about us taking the Empower Youth as a platform, to different jurisdictions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, as a program.
So earlier when you speak of 4 platforms, it's 4 different types of what you've seen, but addressing different segments.
Different
women,
segments,
youth. Okay.
Women, youth, men.
Right.
Entrepreneurs. Those are the 4 audiences that we're targeting. But it would be lovely to talk to you because the structure, the Empower Youth, the second day of what we do, we're focusing on digital economy, deep tech, and AI. We just partnered now with Meta 2 weeks ago. We're about to roll out. Maybe let's have a bilateral.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
That would be great. Yeah. I have a good story and a bad story, but maybe we can discuss.
Let's listen to the good story. Chapa, thank you so much. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
It was okay, let's get to the fun part. Is everyone relaxed Friday? We won.
Yes.
We won, come have a seat. We won. So essentially this is a conversation amongst peers. So I made small deliberately. We are going to interject. I think what do you say? Yeah, we're having a obviously there'll be presentations down again. Then I'm gonna ask just my right hand man for today just to flag something. But so here's how it's gonna roll. We're gonna have Dr. Tladi speak, share with us a few of his thoughts about the topic. And then we're gonna have Billy I'll call him Billy till he becomes a doctor. Billy's gonna share a presentation, his thoughts, right? And then lastly, we're gonna have Dr. Kopeli. He's also going to share with us his thoughts around the topic. And then from there, we're just going to go at it. We're gonna ask questions. We're gonna have. So we're gonna record. We're gonna record and share that. But we're gonna go. I'm not going to hold any questions. If they find money in your house, I want to ask. Right, so I really want us to have that engagement. So we're going to have a free-flowing conversation afterwards. Then from there, we want to just have food, discuss, chill. I might produce a report out of this to share with all of you. But for me, also what's important, those pearls of wisdom that we want to share on social media through some of the video clips we want to produce. So let's relax. Let's just have a nice conversation. We want to break protocol so many times, and yeah. So our first speaker or sharer of knowledge is going to be Dr. Tlat. I knew him before he was the doctor, but I think it's important that we must call people by what they've earned, rightfully so. And they didn't buy these things. Sometimes people buy these things. So as you talk, we're going to listen if you bought it or not.
No, that's a bit stocky. I trust it.
Which one do you not trust?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's so, when people graduate, if I congratulate, they ask why.
So I want to just ask Tian, just maybe read us the profile of Dr. Paul, and just so we start and get to know who he is before he shares.
Yeah, no, I can see. So we have Dr. Mpotlali here, and Dr. Mpotlali is a senior municipal leader and public sector strategist with extensive experience in infrastructure planning, policy development, and urban management. He currently serves at the City of Johannesburg, where he leads work that drives integrated infrastructure outcomes, strengthens institutional capability, and advances sustainable urban development across the city. He has a strong track record in shaping and implementing strategies that improve service delivery, unlock investment, and build resilient, livable communities. His expertise spans infrastructure planning and delivery, governance and compliance, public sector, public finance, stakeholder engagement, and performance management. Dr. Kali holds a PhD in public administration, along with a master's in development studies and a Bachelor of Administration. His doctoral research explored governance and institutional performance in metropolitan municipalities, focusing on how leadership, policy coherence, and organizational culture influences service delivery outcomes. He's a firm believer in ethical leadership, innovation, and the power of partnership to create lasting impact for communities. Can we give Dr. Mpotlali a big round of applause?
Now, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you for the warm welcome. Yeah. So, my week, I essentially told my land manager, look, I have this thing that I'm attending. It's come back. So I'm representing the city of Johannesburg in the African Infrastructure and Governance Network, which is essentially facilitated by the Gauteng City Region Observatory, but as well as the South African Cities Network. And then we also have our sort of financial vehicles, which is Area Metropolitana de Barcelona. They're essentially saying to African cities and countries, look, what do you guys need as a resolution so that we can assist you with this financing vehicle? And their modus operandi is quite interesting because they leave it up to us as African cities to actually come up with these resolutions and to make debate amongst ourselves. So in the room we had Brikama, which is in Gambia, we had Ouagadougou, which is in Burkina Faso, we had Maputo, which is in Mozambique, We had eThekwini, we didn't have Tshwane. We didn't have Tshwane. We had what's this municipality? It's renamed. Nelson Mandela Bay has recently been renamed to Gqeberha. So we had Gqeberha there as well, and Nairobi. Nairobi had the biggest delegation, and we had really raw conversations about our development as Africans, and we were privileged enough to be hosted by or welcomed to the capital city, because we had it at Protea Fine Ice Hotel, mainly in the opening day, and Dr. Nazifi Moya just welcomed us so refreshingly, so organically, like, welcome to our city, we are the capital, Pitori Mahlane, and I don't want to go into his presentation. But it made us feel a sense of being welcomed, and it also didn't alienate our fellow brothers and sisters. The agenda of area metropolitana de Barcelona became organic. And on day 3, we had moved then to Joburg. Not that there were any issues in time, but we went to we went to Melrose Arch, the capital hotel, and I think this was on day 2, where we sort of had one-on-one presentations from each unit. We were divided into about 3. There were like breakaway sessions, and of all the speakers, there was I think group 2 it was. Group 2 came up with an interesting way of articulating and expressing their lived experiences and their lived realities. So essentially they were tasked with giving us a graphic of how exactly their particular municipalities and metropolitans function. And Graham Gotts from the GCRO said, I like these visuals. So Addis Ababa showed us their council structure, and I think Nairobi also showed us how their municipality is essentially structured. And then Graham was like, I like this. So let's get a bit more graphic. Anyone who hasn't given us a chance to present their graphics can show us their graphics. So I was given an opportunity to develop this graphic. So that's the genesis of this graphic, to say, let's be a bit more visual in how we do our presentations. And we're going to be a bit unorthodox in that here to say, maybe a lot of people don't know what the city of Johannesburg is. Okay. Let's not take that for granted.
Maybe, Doc, you can move this side so you can see.
He's got it. Oh yeah, he's got it there. And I think at the heart of the conversation that we're having is essentially the people. Mm-hmm. So it was just a conversation that's usually neglected. I think public officials and administrators will agree that we tend to put the people at the wayside. And in terms of governance and functioning and having a municipality that works, there's actually 3 layers. It's the people, it's the administration, and it's actually the politicians. And they are all equal in their standing. So no one is more important than the other to make this monster work. So this monster is called the City of Johannesburg. We're split across 7 different regions. Look at that sheer size of the population, 5.9 million. That's the media performance estimates. I know we botched the stats essay. Anyone here from? we botched the 2022 census. We're still recovering, and it's got serious implications, especially for a metro like Joburg. And it's giving me a strategic idea. But anyway, let me present it. Our executive mayor is Honorable Executive Councillor Sello Dara Morero. I think we all know him. We have 135 wards, which this budget needs to service. So the budget needs to be administered by Dada, and it needs to service 5.9 million residents of the city of Johannesburg. So this budget, I'll get deeper into it, but I think what's important to understand the sheer scale of the city of Johannesburg is to say, when people boast about Gauteng being the 4th biggest economy in the country, 4th only after South Africa, Egypt, Nigeria, and then you have Gauteng. When people boast about that, it's important to factor in that majority of that comes from the city of Johannesburg. We contribute 40%, almost half, to the economy of Gauteng. So the bragging rights actually places the city of Johannesburg at about number 6, being the 6th biggest economy on the African continent. And then we contribute, that's roughly about 16% of our national GDP. So when we speak Joburg, we have to speak about numbers. When we talk about the economic engine, let's scale up a bit. This is from Mr. Adrian Gore, the CEO of Discovery. He says, you know, the busiest air route is one of the busiest air routes is the one between Joburg and Cape Town. 13 biggest banks of Nigeria well, Standard Bank is bigger than the 13 biggest banks in Nigeria, and it's headquartered here. So between here and Cape Town, you have the busiest air route, and then you also have you're also home to a bank that's bigger than all of Nigeria's banks combined. Joburg is bigger than the municipality, the province of Eastern Cape and Free State, no, Northwest and Free State combined. It's bigger than those two provinces combined. It's bigger than the Western Cape, in fact, the city of Joburg, in terms of its contribution to the GDP. So and I say that because Mr. Adrian Gore was essentially talking about loss aversion theory, to say we stand to lose so much if we don't get this right. And I think as politicians, as administrators, as the people, we don't appreciate what we have in the city of Johannesburg. And maybe there are those who appreciate what we have in those three groupings. But I think loss aversion sort of makes people get a sense of jumping a bit to say, okay, if we stand to lose this valuable thing, let's make it an effort to protect it. So we have Region A right at the top, which is about 16% of, it's got about 800 residents, and that constitutes about 16% of our entire population. Similarly, Region C also constitutes about...
When you say Region A, I'm just maybe is why? What's the...
Region A, you've got your Midrand,
okay,
Ivory Park,
okay,
and the likes. You are on your way to this man's city. You're on your way to Pretoria as you head further north. When we go to Region E is where we were yesterday, your Melrose, your almost bordering Rosebank area. Mm-hmm. So this is where Region E is, and you're just on the border of Ekurhuleni. And then we go into Region B. Region B is where we are currently. This is your Randburg, this is your Rosebank, this is your Sandton Business District. And then in terms of, it's quite minuscule compared to A and C, right? But this is where all the good stuff happens, because this is your financial hub. This is where you have all the banks, all the law firms. 10% Region E, and then Region D. Now this is so big that it's divided into two. We actually have D1 and D2. The logic of that is that this used to be its own municipality a while back. This used to be a council, Soweto, before the changes came about in 1995. Population. This is actually bigger than, or almost the size of a municipality called Brikama. We're in the midst of a mayor. Mayor of Brikama was there with us. He's called the chairman that side. But this is, the sheer scale of this is almost the size of a city in the global north. Brikama is one of the main cities in the Gambia. It's about northwest of Africa. And then we have Region F, which is about 13%, roughly 13%, with a number of about 664 contributing to our entire population. This is your Joburg South, also bordering Ekurhuleni. There's a nice node there, Sarkopis, that takes us to your Meyersdal area, as well as Albertsdal, etc., etc., etc. And then we move down, and then we go to your Lenasia and your Orange Farm. This is Region G, this is 15%. It was also significant in terms of its numbers. These are also new entrants. Over here you have Dobsonville, you have Protea Glen, and you have your Orange Farm, which are sort of new entrants, and Region C, Krugersdorp, West Rand. You have new entrants into the city of Johannesburg in terms of our demarcation. So we need to facilitate. So this has been the problem of Joburg.
Entrance doesn't transfer from one municipality to the other.
Now, under demarcation changes, they've now been absorbed into the city of Johannesburg. Previously, they were on the west. So, yeah, like just on the border of Mukhali City. So these are new entrants.
New as in from where?
The west, your Mukhale, West Rand.
Then at a time.
No, I'm not sure of the dates. I'm not sure of the dates, but the transition period is obviously between 1995 and where we find ourselves now. Post apartheid, new dispensation. So, why is this picture important? Maybe before I even go into why this picture is important, we'll have a conversation. But I just wanted us to get a sense of the numbers. City manager, you can come back, or big doctor. I don't bargain big doctor. So nagina small doctor. So there's this concept of a polycentric urban city, right? And a polycentric city is just an urban structure with multiple interconnected centers of activity rather than a single dominant business district. So this is what is envisaged in our spatial development framework of 2040. It's essentially saying, and I like to give raw examples. I had the privilege of traveling to the Netherlands, in The Hague. You literally at a hotel, you step out and you're met with a pedestrian crossing, and then you're met with cycling, and then you're met with the road infrastructure, and then you're met with the bus infrastructure, and then you're met with the tram infrastructure. They literally parallel, Billy. Literally parallel. And I'm like, sure, this level of development is unheard of. It's my first time out of South Africa, and I'm met with this level of development and infrastructure. And I asked, we were there for training on sustainable service delivery goals and localizing them. And I asked our trainers to say, how did you get to this monster of development, amazing development? And the numbers are balancing. Well, there were more cyclists, it's Netherlands. Okay. So, in fact, an interesting fact about the cycling culture in Netherlands, the Dutch prioritize cyclists more than pedestrians. A cyclist is more important than a pedestrian, so you make way for a bicycle. Achieve them all. And it says a lot about the culture of health and just being absorbed in the people. So I said to myself, how? Because the ideas. Whether they're going to be accepted or not is another question. It's a question for another day, and I think that's for the offline, right? The camera will.
But
we're going to bench warmers. So he said, Mpo, it's planning, long-term planning. Planning, just planning for like a long term. Like you think now, you think before, now, and after, but you take planning. You take it to the heart of what you're trying to do. You plan like, wow, I'll prioritize it based on what are the priorities. No. They sat down and said, and also they plan with the people. They sit down. They've got this concept of public participation, which is astonishing. It's called citizen science.
And part of planning,
citizen science.
The part of planning is that I must also give other people time to speak.
Okay, yeah. Sure. Okay, let's get to transit-oriented development. Ne? Okay. So polycentrism, we understand that it's multiple centers, and then we want that polycentric city. It's also interconnected centers. So there's equality across these particular regions. So region C must be as developed as B, E, and F, so that you don't create a desire for the population only wanting to go to the center. And that's the polycentric city model of the city of Johannesburg. That's the logic. And it's also the logic of the City Region Observatory. Of course, it's a desire. It's what we are trying to get to. And then we also have the corridors of freedom for transit-oriented development. So that's essentially about population density matched with avoiding the urban sprawl, matched with access to opportunities. Also a key objective under the spatial development frame. So this conversation is framework. So this conversation essentially is about the city of Joburg having 11 priorities. But are those priorities based on data? This is the big but. Do we really need 11 priorities as a city of Johannesburg? And the simple answer is, maybe you do, but are they informed by data? And the real picture right now is that they're not quite informed by data, otherwise you wouldn't need so many. The data is actually telling us you only need
priorities in the city of Johannesburg. And this is probably the same in Eguruleni and Billy's presentation. Infrastructure, governance, and finance. We did a future and foresight workshop recently where we said, as officials, what are the core issues? And it came out, of course, they came with their own research and data, infrastructure, governance, and finance. You get those three right, you can have a fully functioning municipality. So that data mustn't be seen as a buzzword. It mustn't be seen as data for data's sake. It mustn't be, let's just, AI is here. Let's see how we use AI. We want AI, but we don't even know how to apply it at the moment. So we need informed decisions. For example, and I make 3 examples here. How many households do you have versus the amount of inspectors to make sure that you're building correctly? Is low-cost housing, number 2, is low-cost housing a choice most people want, or do they prefer formalizing the informal? You know, even and I treat informal and formal with the sensitivity it requires, you know. And then lastly, are we aware of the climate conditions of the city that we're in? Joburg is one of the highest cities in the world, so it impacts our breathing. It impacts questions about livability, sustainability, resilience. We are one of the highest cities globally. I mean, I think we're among the top 3. So when our plans do we take that into considerations when we factor in budget allocations to climate, etc. So let me just make 2 last examples about the 2. I'll leave the climate one because I've already spoken to that. So when it comes to the inspectors and number of households, you can go on a drive to build housing and buildings and skyscrapers, which is what Singapore is doing, you know. I mean, Dubai did, but not do we have enough building inspectors for compliance? I mean, I think currently in the city of Johannesburg, the answer is no. So you find a lot of people just building haphazardly. You find your neighbor might be building a wall that's a bit too close to the pavement, etc. Because there's not enough inspectors, but you're prioritizing skyscrapers, you're prioritizing building infrastructure, you're prioritizing housing, but you don't have a workforce. So already there's a demand for housing, but a shortage of people inspecting whether those buildings are being built correctly. And then this is the last example. In Brazil, and in this network, they said, no, let's move away from using the words informality and formality because of how sensitive they are. There's a bit dehumanizing. So they said planned versus unplanned. I say, hey, when I linkage, man. There's a serious linkage. So in Brazil, this finance vehicle that I was talking about wanted to move people from their shanties, their unplanned housing, into more formal structural. Reallocate them somewhere. And they said, no, we want to stay here. The people actually objected and said, we have cases of those in South Africa. Yeah. They said, we want to stay in touch with our roots and our history. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So they developed right there in the shanties into formal structure. Not so formal, but acceptable conditions for those people. So people who are against formalization, maybe it's not so wrong, depending on whether the people from there accept it. So I think I thought I'd touch on housing because there's so many people in Joburg. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, I didn't interject a lot, so we're gonna go through. I think the next presenter will be Billy, and I think we're gonna do the same format. We're gonna show Billy and Diana will still reach us as to who Billy is, and no, not that one. The other short guy.
Yeah, and I look at the picture. The last time I wore a tie was what? I don't know. This one. I don't wear a tie.
Are you sorted there?
Yeah, I'll leave the gadget once you're done.
Okay. Okay. Now moving forward to Billy Sipuro. So. Billy Sipuro is an acting divisional head under the water distribution at the city of Tshwane, responsible for maintenance and operation of water and sanitation distribution networks. With extensive experience in municipal service delivery and infrastructure management, he has led critical operations that support communities and economic growth. He holds a master's degree from the University of Johannesburg, where his research examined traffic condition and commuter experience in Tshwane. His expertise spans infrastructure operations, service delivery, and urban mobility. Billy is passionate about building efficient, resilient, and sustainable municipal systems that improve the quality of lives for residents while ensuring long-term sustainability of essential public infrastructure. Can we give Billy support a big round of applause?
So is the presentation there, or is it on there?
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay. Should I say orange and?
No, it's not this one.
It's not.
Is it not this one?
It's not. I think it's.
Mine might be here.
You can use your own device.
All right.
You know how to connect, Simas?
I'm still going to connect.
In my previous life, in these awkward times, we used to sing.
But this is work, so you'll hardly see anything out of the
We
audio.
used to sing, you know, during transition.
I have no idea.
Oh, sharp.
In my previous life.
What will be quicker for me to send here or what?
You can mirror, it's fine.
You can just mirror.
Assuming you know how I must do that. I'm connected, so.
I think Paul, thanks for reminding us how big Johannesburg is. I think we tend to forget that it's huge in terms of not only physical size but economic contribution. It's not Cape Town.
Yeah, I mean when there was the conversation around Eskom switching off Joburg, and one of the points the minister makes, it sounded like a political statement that Joburg is too big to fail. So you get to understand that in context. So it's not a political statement. Just imagine, I'm just imagining if that economy is undermined by someone not paying Eskom.
Sure.
I've got my own views about it.
I just want to add on the beauty of visualization, right? I really love it. I can pretty much remember everything you said, just looking at the picture. But I think most important is often, you know, we want to go quickly and solve a problem. There's a problem here. What I like about this, you zoom out and you look at the picture more holistically, and you take a more scientific approach, data-driven, you know, and you then start to compartmentalize issues based on the bigger picture, and you create a more overall solution. This is what I got the gist of. Just say have targeted solutions. You know, your polycentric thing, city models. You know, keep people where they are. Zoom out.
Can take this one.
Give a cross, let's say, municipality infrastructure services, or you know, build. I don't know if I put you correctly. I really like the approach of zoom out, understand the numbers, because essentially this is what drives the municipality. Essentially, what everything, you know, as you mentioned, finance is based on, governance is based on, and obviously the end infrastructure. Beautiful.
Okay. Maybe let me rush through. Let me rush through about the 7 slides. So thanks for the introduction. Maybe just the point to make. So I spent the greater part of my time in the city on dealing with urban management. I will one day tell you the story of water, how I end up at water. But for the longest time, I've been head of urban management. So my passion really is about the redesign and configuration of cities that are inclusive. Maybe just to start where the doctor ends. Maybe right in the beginning, he emphasized the point around the importance of people making inputs in what happened in their cities. And there is a quote I like by the former mayor of Johannesburg, Dadema Sondo. And he says, power and leadership is dispersed in society. And it's the role of city leadership to coordinate power and leadership as it dispersed in society. And it's an important thing to understand that power is organized in many formats. So it's not just about councillors who are elected. So there are many formal and informal power that exist in different corners within every municipality. And if you don't understand that and coordinate that power as elected leadership, you're going to have a lot of problems in terms of your mismatch for planning. Just the few points. So there's just some few things about what I think the global perspective is as far as municipalities are concerned, and the developing city challenges. I thought it's also useful just to touch a little bit on what are the historic context. We'll talk a little bit about Tshwane and investment priorities. So the first aspect there, just to amplify the point, is that talking about the importance of cities globally. Cities are a big player. This is fairly much small. So one of the studies that I'm very conversant with, if you read the report by McKinsey and partners, I think it's titled Urban Wealth, Mapping the Economic of Cities. So it talks about the 600 cities in the world that generate about 60% of the global GDP, and also account for almost 80% of the global population. And we know that the most developed and urbanized region in the world is Northern America and Latin America. So by natural design, majority of those cities are in those particular regions. But what is important about the study, it also talks about the point of stagnation. But while these 300 cities are located in the global north, the research also suggests that they've reached the peak of their development. And it talks about the concept of replacement cities. So it say their lifespan to an extent will start to be limited, and you can see it in terms of the global dynamics. But the point that it makes that the replacement cities will come from the global south, and predominantly from China and India, and it lists some of the cities. And the point that it drives home is the point that the doctor makes, is that cities are drivers of economic development. So if you think about it, is that 600 cities account for almost 80% of the global GDP and almost 80% of the global population. And if you take it home, how many people, I mean, if you converse, how many people when they come to Cape Town say they are going to South Africa? We said they are going to Cape Town as a destination. Some don't even know South Africa. How many people know which country Dubai belongs in? If you ask a common person, they don't know. So that is the elevation of cities and the importance of cities as the drivers of the economy in their own respect. So I think that is an important context to make the point on. 1 in 7 people migrate, so there's also an issue around migration. So if you look at the point on the right-hand side, actually it's much better that side. So it talks about rapid urbanization growth and youth-heavy demographics. You're just making the point about the population of Johannesburg. I mean, the population of Africa, almost 40% of the population of the African continent is young. And if you go to the global north, it's a different game altogether. So they've got an aging population problem. If you look at the slide written global south urbanization, there are just few points there to make without reading everything. Urban growth often arrives before universal water, sanitation, energy, transport, coverage. So the difference about the globe, and this is important for planning for planning perspective. So the urbanization in the global south, it is not a result of pulling factors. So people are not migrating in the global south because there are readily available opportunities. So that is different. When the global north was experiencing urbanization, people were moving into readily available opportunities because urbanization coincided with industrialization. So in this context, it's very different. And that is very important. If you go to Joburg, particularly Tshwane and Ekurhuleni, which are the epicenters of urbanization, is that people are living, and this is about both domestic and international urbanization. So there are people who live Limpopo, Eastern Cape, and the rural provinces to Gauteng, not because there are jobs waiting for them, but because the prospect that they can get a job in Gauteng are significantly higher than in the Eastern Cape and the neighboring countries and whatever the case is. So then there is an overcrowding of people in these cities. If you read the Global Risk Report of 2024, there are a few things that I did highlight in terms of the global risk. And the few that I've highlighted there, it speaks about extreme weather condition, cost of living crisis. Like there's a couple of others that it rise. I deliberately picked on the two and the discussion we're having. And on the right, what are the challenges for engineers? So the realities of global warming are confronting us. So, I mean, we go right in the middle of winter with rain. So there need to be rethinking in terms of how we design our infrastructure. So our road infrastructure capability in terms of our stormwater infrastructure, for an example, is not designed in a way to handle the amount of rain that we receive. So there is a need to have strategic thought on how do we resolve some of those challenges. Developing city challenges without integrated system. So that is the point that was making. So what are South Africa's numbers in terms of urbanization? So if you read the Integrated Urban Development Framework and the NDP, it makes the following point. South African project to be 71.3 urban by 2030 and nearly 80% by 2050. This rise demand of bulk infrastructure, housing, mobility, and public spaces. So these are the numbers that are projected for South Africa. And the epicenter of that development, that urbanization will be in Gauteng. Joburg will take the biggest punch of that. Of course, if you read the Integrated Urban Development Frameworks, it makes an argument that there will be secondary cities that will likely also receive the numbers. But city where we're sitting, the numbers are coming to Gauteng. There will be some numbers in Cape Town and in Durban. So that put a huge burden. So when you're doing the numbers in terms of the population numbers, so there's numbers that are undocumented. So they consume so every day, so they don't live in the middle of nowhere. I don't know what is Lefaufawi in English. So it's the space that no one owns. So they exist in those spaces. So they are not accounted for because they are undocumented. But every day they consume water, they use sanitation, they use your roads and whatever the case is. So that is the burden that we talked about. And there is this idea that urbanization is inherently a problem. It's not. And you can, and I say this respectfully, you can march on march every day. Globalization and urbanization is a natural phenomenon. People move around to where opportunities are. It's as old as the world has existed. And I'm saying the global north experiences more differently because when urbanization was at the rapid point, there was also industrialization. So there was no problem. People were moving to readily available opportunities. And this time around is very different. And the numbers are 2 times of what the global north experienced. So the numbers are almost 3 times and so on. So integration failures, he makes an important point. So one of the biggest weaknesses is the absence of integration in planning. So the easiest example, if you go to Tshwane, Joburg, I don't know about Ekurhuleni. So if you drive in the morning, there is a Rea Vaya bus, in Tshwane. Then just a few minutes later, you'll see a TBS bus, that is another Tshwane bus, competing for routes. Then later, you'll see a bus from Gautrain. Then in another 2 minutes, you'll see another bus that is procured by Gauteng province for school, for those subsidized buses. All of them subsidized by the same state. And part of the absent, so everybody compete for their own KPIs. So my project is to, but why? And the only way to resolve that, all these are national grants. Part of the conditional in grants about you can insist on integration. One of the questions I always ask, when Gautrain was finalized and part of the understanding was that there must be a bus service to support Gautrain, one of the natural things, at least in my view, should have been to the big cities that, look, you are developing your BRT systems, which is government funded. We need you to support our Gautrain services. When you design your bus routes, you then make sure that part of it is to support the Gautrain services as an extension of that service. Half of our buses run empty. There are buses that are Gautrain buses that are collecting people, whether they are empty or full, that's a discussion for another day. So I'm just using transport also because the space that I studied my master's in, just to elevate the limitation in integration. And these are costs. Right now, we're unable to sustain the running of BRT bus system. So in turn, the city manager correctly says, no. The amount of money we subsidize the service does not make sense. And even argue that if this was a business, one of the first decisions was to close it down. But because we're a public institution, we've got an obligation to provide this service. He said at the minimum, we must run it through limited to what the grant is available. Because the amount of money we match on month-to-month basis to make empty buses to run does not make sense. And that is just the epicenter. And you can give a main example about housing and whatever the cases. I wouldn't go to that level of detail. Then few historic things, I'll just speak to one. When we get to this slide about historic thing, engineers and other people get bored. They say, no, I'm not a politician. When they say, no, you're talking about apartheid for too long. You can't have a conversation about local government, not discuss about what the implication of the apartheid system was. Local government has 2 fundamental functions. One of them is about spatial reconciliation. One of them is provision of basic services. there is a line there on top. I can't. No, I think it's on a different slide. I'll read it. So there, I don't have to read to you what you know about the different apartheid legislation, but what essentially they represent is what often all of us refer to as separate development. That is why today, if someone in this room asks me where do I come from, it should be a very easy answer, but it's not, because I must say home or home. What are you? I'm from Limpopo. So it's in the answer. Yeah. So that is a demonstration that the legacy of apartheid still live fundamentally with us. And I'll demonstrate with 2 examples about, in my view at least, in the democratic dispensation, I think we've been unable to resolve that problem. And I appreciate its sophistication. So one of the biggest legacies amongst many is the architecture of separate development. Well thought out. I always argue that the apartheid government was one of the most capable states. Not developmental, not developmental, capable at least to the interests of those it was loyal to. And I think it's important to make the rest of the point. Capable to the extent of those it is loyal to. Yeah, and that is why we find these difficulties in terms of resolving some of the call it the spatial injustice, and however way we refer to it. Why is this important? So if you look at the middle lines, why is this an important topic to speak about? It's not a boring conversation, and planners must take this into consideration. Middle line just tell us that an ordinary person still spent, if you look at the National Housing and Transport Survey of 2020, it says an average person still spend about almost 30% of their disposable income on transport. So you cannot have the conversation. So it enrolled on incomes of poor households. I don't want to talk about the amount of transport that they use, that they leave at 4 o'clock in the morning and arrive at 8 o'clock in the morning. One of the things in the study, we're trying to check the quality of life. You can learn that your child is pregnant the day they give birth. Yeah, Monday to Friday, you arrive, you leave at 4, you come back at 8, they're sleeping. Saturday, you're home. Saturday, Sunday, kereke. Yeah, then the society, how we function. So I'm saying the implication of the inability of the democratic government to resolve the spatial contradictions still persist in this. So there are people who live this daily. And the second part, maybe just the last example, just in the settlement, the cost associated with the disparity of availability of services. You can see about 30 to 50% cheaper. Should people live in more concentrated areas than living in a very disparate. There's the issue around crime and so on. Obviously, I'm trying to limit the conversation into a specific confinement. Then there are, what are the key, some of the realizable achievement of, I did not go through a lot of those. I think one of the biggest achievements of the democratic government, as far as local government is concerned, Dr. Kopedi, is the first point. The affirmation of local government as a single point of planning. So the proclamation of Spluma in 2013 reaffirms that. If you recall, before that, provincial government had a role to play as far as planning is concerned. I forgot what the name of the act was in provincial government. So I'm saying that is an important, because so there is no other sphere of government that approve plans, that confirm plans. There's no other sphere of government that is responsible for bulk infrastructure. So that function exclusively resides in local government. So I think it is an important achievement as far as affirming local government as an independent sphere of government, primarily responsible for planning, provided you've got capable local government. So if you don't, if I ask anyone here how long it took for you to get your housing plans, then the story changes.
The way lives,
the way lives application, whatever the case is. Yes. So I'm saying that statement assuming that you've got a capable local government. So if you go to the right-hand side, it also talk about, if you read the NDP and you read the National Land Transport Act and a few other pieces of legislation, they make an important point. As far as transport is concerned, and having raised what I've raised about different transport models working past each other, it makes an admission in the NDP. It also makes an admission in the National Land Transport Act that, in fact, we should localize all of transport planning in local government. So read the NDP, read the National Transport. So affirm that the placing increased responsibility in local planning authority for effective implementation and fully integrated network. So policy positions already admit that our planning as far as, and I'm using transport, there could be a lot of other things. And this is not limited to transport. Where are people building? Where are we building houses? And so on. So the other important one is RDP. It's one of the biggest projects that the democratic state has undertaken. What are the limitations of the RDPs in the early 90s? They were built very far from urban development. Just look at where the initial RDP houses are. All of them are very, very far. So the reason that is an important point to make is that they affirm the apartheid morphology. So they don't challenge the spatial reconfiguration. So a lot of our position, has not been challenging the apartheid spatial planning. The last example I'll give is the BRT. The BRT systems. BRT achieved only one thing. Even the BRT does not seek to contradict the spatial. You take people from Soweto to where? To town as we know it. We take people from Atteridgeville to town as we know it. So Dr. Ramokgopa in his thesis, he makes the point there. Note that the early phases of the BRT in Gauteng risk production, apartheid spatial patterns, where corridors investment was not matched by spatial framework reforms. And I am aligned with that point. That even the introduction of the very BRT, it achieved at least two fundamental things. Safe traveling and reduced cost traveling. So at least from that perspective, we can say there's some degree of achievement as far as BRT introduction is concerned. But does not tamper with the spatial reconfiguration fundamentally.
Just makes it more efficient.
Yes, just make more efficient. Let's get quickly to
the same place.
Yeah, same place. Then I think maybe just rush. The last one, second last one is the, okay, this is still the same slide. Then just a little bit, what are the politics of local government? So there are two philosophers that I'm very fond of. One of them is David Harvey. It's one of the most prolific writers on the question around local government. I will not read all of them. I can't see properly here.
No, move around.
Yeah, let me see.
But get to the end.
No, the end is near. Yeah. So part of the point that David Harvey makes there, so if you read the top part, Harvey argues that cities are not neutral spaces, but urbanization, distribution, supply, power, and access. The right to the city is a collective power to reface urbanization, not merely an access to what already exists, but to make it after our heart's desire. So the point is people are not fighting for access to only what already exists in cities, but they want to be co-creators of what their cities should look like. And the doctor was making an important point that often than not in planning we exclude people. And I think that point is reaffirmed. Yes. The first line says a global government is where, so I like the second part. So we always talk about local government being where the tie, is it the tie hit that, what hit what? The tie hit the tar, something like that. Yes, the rubber hits, yes, the rubber hits the road. So it's extremely pronounced in those instances. So it says the right to water becomes a working tap. It's like a small statement. So the right to water is not philosophized. The right to water is access to clean water on a tap. And it says the right to dignity becomes sanitation. The right to access opportunities and so on. Maybe let me just, the last 2 points. Because of infrastructure determine access, it is inherently political. If decision who is connected, who waits, who pays, who benefit, and who remain excluded, because those are decisions that get to be made. So the quality and the dialogical disposition of those who lead cities makes these decisions. To answer his question, where does the money go? It's not a neutral decision. So the ideological commitment of those who lead our cities makes those decisions. That is why when people say local government, they don't vote and so on. So where money goes, where development goes, it's not a neutral decision, it's a heavily political decision. So you say participation means residents must have power in shaping urban development. Two last points, concurrent to him. In my few years having been in local government, there are two visions or programs or project of government that have came very close, at least from a theoretical point of view, in trying to achieve spatial justice. If you read the corridors of freedom that were launched during Comrade Park's time, it gets very close to that. If you read the Vision 2055 that was launched in the city of Tshwane when Comrade Putla was the mayor. That is the longest, and it's the point we're making about long-term vision. So, I mean, that was how many more years to think of, and so on. Tshwane's profile, I'll not go to that. Let me flag with two things that none of you can talk about, just to undermine Joburg a little bit. So the fun facts there, we're the largest metropolitan municipality, the third largest metropolitan municipality in the world in terms of spatial size after New York and Tokyo. The other thing I was saying to the
bigger than Ekurhuleni.
by spatial size. Yeah. by spatial size. And we'll talk about what the benefit of those are and what the negatives are.
Okay.
And the other thing about Tshwane, I was saying we're the only metropolitan municipality that has the big five. Yes. You say something to flag about. You can't just buy them and rearrange them quick. So on the specific pressure points, maybe just to touch those on a bit, I'll just look at the bottom slide. The mayor went to council yesterday to make a plea to council to approve a decision to go look for alternative funding method within the framework as approved by National Treasury. If you look at the National Treasury prescription says maintenance ratio must be 7.5% of your total asset value. Look at where we are. Electricity were at 4%, water were at 1 to 2%, and roads were at 1 to 2%. You go to the other side in terms of our losses. Our water losses are sitting at 45%, and our non-revenue water losses at about 34%. That means for every megaliter of water we buy from rainwater, 24% of it is unaccounted for. And that accounts for 1.7 billion in a year. So that is the true nature of the problem of where we sit. The municipality, I'm sure the doctor will speak about it, that performs the best on the number one of water is Ekurhuleni. And by far, we're better than Joburg, so at least just in that context. So I think I've spoken about this just in terms of our budget. So this is the last slide really. What are the fundamental questions, at least on my end, using spatial advantages? Some of the best examples is corridors of freedom as already indicated. The last 2 points, one of the decisions we need to make is to also start dealing with what I call runaway cost. The amount of money we pay for water tankers, chemical toilets, and are very problematic. In Tshwane, at one point, we're accused of having spent almost R1 billion. So one of the things we are dealing with now,
water tank mafia.
Cutting that budget into half, part of it must go to innovation. So we're going out on anyone who's interested. Okay. We're going out in an RFP to look for alternative water sources. For example, in the areas in Region 5, where it's Bronkhorstspruit and so on, that are outside the urban edge, you don't have bulk water infrastructure. So we're going to the market to engineers that, what are the solutions that are available in the market that we can look into? I think let me leave it there for now. Thanks.
Oh, thanks. It's quite interesting. I want to just fast forward to the last speaker so we can get to the fun parts. Let's introduce Dr. Kopedi quickly. Tian, you've been doing very well so far.
So I must stop sharing here, ne?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess we're now going forward to the big doctor.
We are done with the small ones.
Big
To be small doctor big.
To be small big.
Okay, maybe you'll just read it out.
Yeah, I can just.
Oh, we're getting there. Okay.
Okay. We're now moving forward to Dr. Tulufelo Joshua Kopedi. Dr. Tulufelo is a respected leader in local government and public administration with over 2 decades of cumulative experience at top management level. He specializes in local government, public administration, strategic planning, organizational transformation, stakeholder engagement, innovative municipal governance, and financial sustainability. He has worked and managed complex municipal projects in areas of infrastructure and service delivery, innovation, as well as transformation. Dr. Kopedi obtained his PhD from the University of Pretoria and his research focused on space, infrastructure, and budget. His two masters in areas of masters in business leadership and public and development management, together with background in local government finance and advantage certificate specialization in smart cities, emerging design and technology from
MIT.
And municipal financial management from National Treasury. Speaks about his strong credentials and expertise in multidisciplinary areas of local government, public administration, and financial sustainably smart cities as subject leader and expert. He is passionate about building capable, ethical, and performance-driven municipalities that improve the quality of life for communities and create sustainable value for future generations. And can we please give the big doctor
So you got me in trouble with the doctor there. So there's no big or small doctor. So just to punch it back, but just say that those who have completed school and those who have not completed, right? So yeah. So if you're not an NQF 10, yeah. No, thanks very much, Tsepo. I think I'm honored to be here. So also in my past life, I would have said. The future is bright. But having listened to the colleagues, I think I must say that the present is even brighter because as a generation, we have a huge responsibility. And I think, because I was probably provoked, right? I really want to just go through this. So I think one of the things that we need to accept is that the young lions have failed. The young lions of Tambo have failed. With the exception of few people, I saw one colleague of mine talking about how they were taken. Maybe even say you don't know it in Comrade Fisher.
Ken, I was shocked.
Yeah, right. So with the exception of his generation and how it was kicked out of local government, because part of the things about linked local government is to accept the politics that have also driven particularly the master metropolitan movement. I mean, you can imagine a mayoral committee of Kenny Fisher and Brian Hlonga. Johannesburg shouldn't be where it is. May Brian's soul rest in peace, right? So when I say the present is even brighter, is to accept that and to fundamentally shake where the problems are, you know. So Tsepo was saying to him, hey, it's Friday, this thing of PowerPoints. Then he said, we'll switch the camera off. You know about you, gentlemen. I said, I'm not, it's fine. I'm beyond the point of career limiting statements. Because there's something far more greater that is ought to be expected from us, including challenging this thing that SA has brought us into a mess. Because it's a huge mess, and some of the governance lapses, without blaming anyone, right? We don't take them head on. So, Bill, I wanted to say to you, was you guys probably provoked me before I go to that, to this thing. You mentioned two statements that I thought were a bit opposite of each other. So the first one, you said that climate change, I'm not sure if it was you or Ntwengi, right? But then later you say, no, let's go out on the market, right? But to the extent in which we design our roads and stormwater, and ensure that we harness rainwater back into our systems should be a logical thing, right? Instead of having concrete rivers whenever it rains and the water goes nowhere, right? So those are things that we should be thinking about. What's that garden in New York? Central Park. So underneath Central Park is a reservoir.
If you play 30 seconds, we'll be winning.
Right? So underneath Central Park is a reservoir. Now, take any of your intersections that flood now and again. and ask yourself, why are we not thinking at that level, right? Also, what do you pay the water tankers for? It's a conversation when we went to human rights because they had an issue with us, and your MM was there, your CM was there. And we've asked the question in the city because for my sins, that's why I say I'm beyond career limited. These are questions I ask because my primary responsibility is to deal with strategy and corporate planning. And I'll ask the colleagues, you want a budget for this? What are you paying the water tankers for? Because where are they getting the water? Right? So are we paying them for transport? If we are paying them for transport, my mind says I must go to SARS and look at what SARS pays per kilometer. And that's what I must pay them. Nothing else. Then I save a lot of money as a city, right? But when I say I'm probably provoked, there's probably Mpo's graphic there is very powerful and I love it. And perhaps we'll go back to it as we have the other open conversation. And the only three, maybe plus one is a bonus data sets that I'll add to complete what a city looks like and why I say this generation has failed us. So the first data, maybe the bonus will be the demographics. Right? And I can tell you now for any city in this country with my eyes closed, once I add those demographics, people who look like all of us here are in the periphery. The second data set I'll add is the budget spend and the budget distribution. The third that I'll add is the maintenance. Well, actually within the budget, we'll add the maintenance. The second I'll add, which is the third now, is the revenue collection. And because SSA has messed us up, the fourth that would add, which is the primary threat, demographics is just a cherry on top, will be the SARS and tax earnings data. Then we are talking. Then we can plan, in terms of what needs to happen. However, there are also other problems that we have if we have to accept the theory and the fundamentals and the science, most importantly, Billy, as you've captured, that went into planning an apartheid city. Why must we have polycentric cities? It's an issue I've always had with Johannesburg. If we add those data centers and then we discuss, right, 1.3 million people in the south at the edge, how much budget are we spending there? Of course, Johannesburg, Soweto, followed by Tembisa, were Johannesburg much earlier, and Tembisa towards 2010, were the two municipalities or two areas where capital budget in relation to roads was fully spent. Overnight, there were no dusty roads in Soweto. Those of you who grew up in Soweto will know Soweto,
I know.
Right? The same with Tembisa. The period, I think, between 2006 to 2008-9, there were no, literally, gravel roads there, right? But however, if you go there today, it's a different story, and it goes to issues of maintenance that you spoke about, and that's what my PhD was about, right? And I'll make a note about it later on, because when we speak about the rubber hitting the tar, I was so excited when I was doing my PhD because it took me so long. So I said to my supervisor, I don't want traditional headings, and I always talk about these headings, and I want to share with colleagues. So the first chapter was the roads leading to a place of peace. Ekurhuleni means a place of peace. The second one is not just a road in a space, and the issue of space is critical. We'll discuss a bit later. And then the third one, which the research design and methodology, was hitting the tar and bending the cap. Because it's not an easy thing to do. And then
Bending the cap.
Yeah. No. Hitting the tar, the issue that I was saying about the rubber hitting the tar. And then the last two was muddy roads and streets of gold. And then the last one was a roadworthy path. So it just took me back to that. And I did that because it took me upwards of 10 years for me to actually start and finish my PhD. So thanks very much, gents. I think, as I said, I'm highly provoked. Some of the theoretical lenses I'm not going to speak to because I think Billy really captured, and I think these are things that we must discuss. So originally I said to Tsepo, I want to speak about municipal infrastructure and its role in LED. I think I was a bit emotional about March on March and things like that. And of course, what is the role of what I term a developmental civil engineering professional in delivering infrastructure. But I then went back because he changed days, he changed venues and so forth. So I can also change. So I then went back and changed, and I wanted to just start here because you said you want to have a frank conversation on what is really happening behind infrastructure delivery, why projects succeed or fail, and what must change to build better cities. I have an issue, firstly, about the planned and unplanned, or the formal and informal, because one of the things that, having had many homes, Billy, so Tsepo home is spread view, but home is also Hammanskraal, and home is also ZB, then home is also my home, right, where I stay right now. So having had many homes, the issue of dignity is a serious issue. So even when I did my PhD, one of the things that I was concerned about is the issues around municipal infrastructure. So and it was bad for me. So this thing of dignity, I take it very personal. So at home in Hammanskraal, a place called Mkhokhelo, literally a village in the middle of nowhere. Those of you who know, I'm sure you also don't know it, Mkhokhelo. So it's right behind Stingwater, but before Makapanstad. So it's literally it's in the northwest, right? By demarcation, another problem that we have because we've never really built anything and redesigned anything. So home is on a main road. So a bus that's taking people to Randburg, that's taking people to Pretoria CBD, by 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, we are awake. But because it's on a main road, the toilet is, you see where the cars are parked that side, the house is there, then the toilet is at the gate. But it's a main road, right? So either in the morning you're waking up, taking your bucket there, or you are rushing there, right? So when we talk about planned and unplanned, and the middle segment we had about infrastructure, network infrastructure precisely, long pipes and everything else. The issue then arises when we want to build and develop cities. What are we talking about? Orange Farm did not really exist 20, 35 years ago as a huge area that exists, but it's one of the first areas where these RDP houses would have been put up and everything else. But why did we have to go to Orange Farm? Because by then it was already clear that central Johannesburg is, people are moving out, businesses moving out and so forth, Hillbrow, Perea and so forth. Why didn't you want to put people there, right? So when we say what has failed and why is it failing, and I put the point there that my simple frank response, it is easier to collude and loot capex than it is to collude and loot opex.
Okay.
That's the reality. Okay. But we also have very problematic officials, politicians, and contractors, yourselves, engineers. So to protect the colleagues, remember I said my problem is just...
I'm in charge of what goes out, don't worry.
Yeah, so
it's easier to loot capex.
Yeah, it is, because and the issue around the BRT is exactly that. 7 billion on the IRPTG grant in Msunduzi and KZN, and not even a bus stop. Yeah, Rustenburg, right? So without undermining people's entrepreneurial skills and so forth, the mayor of Rand West City, it's the open space, Comrade William, right, says to me, I say to him, hey, that industry, so it's in the taxi space, I said, that industry of yours is the biggest beneficiary of apartheid. It is also the biggest beneficiary of PRT. Because there are all these SPVs that we've had to create, you know, and they are run by taxi bosses and industries. In fact, if anything, even if you follow Mahlang, that thing of BRT, the one thing that is succeeded is to bring taxi industries into the space of local government. And when I say space, I mean the tendering space, the procurement space, and that's created all these other problems, right? Because we have never really built cities. So it's easier to loot on CAPEX because you know, colleagues, you are civil engineers, P's and G's, they go wild, ne? They go wild. They are for the extra fat and battering people who must make sure that, you know, contracts are awarded.
The cost of doing business.
Yeah. So that's a problem, and where we have done a disservice to our people, even if it's not that easy to collude and loot around OPEX, we have found, and I'm saying we because I'm part of the value chain and the body politic of local government. We have went out of our way to even deal with those issues of OPEX. That's why you lose, how much, Johannesburg? 48% of your non-revenue water. Yeah.
48.
Yeah, 46, 48. But that's why you lose so much non-revenue water. It's crazy, it's unthinkable. That's why in Tshwane you give people cholera in this day and age. So I grew up in Hammanskraal, my teeth tend to be yellow, you know. You can have accepted that because Neribergsas Diba and everything else and the minerals in Hammanskraal, blah, blah, blah. But I would not have accepted that, you know, so many years in democracy, people are getting cholera. It's because of these other things that we are doing, because CAPEX, whilst it's easier to loot it, right, it comes once off. But easy come, easy go. Then people are stuck, you know, and corrupt officials and corrupt contractors, consultants and everything cannot wait for the vulnerability index of politicians every 5 years. Right? So what do? We go and introduce things that must happen every year. Water tendering, street lights getting cut, and you know, because our street lights get cut, we had a problem in Ekurhuleni. 200 million was spent on fuel in one financial year, because I then also deal with performance information in the waste department for trucks. And then for my sins, I was then asked to go act at that department, and I asked a few questions. And 70% of the trucks were not working. And I asked, but how do you then use 200 million?
Where's the fuel going to?
Yeah.
The fuel of it.
But they are going to the trucks that we have hired for round collection of service providers. And so that's the first part of looting OPEX. That's where it's going. So, and then you get community members are quite good, because they then take videos of saying, no, but that truck is not, it doesn't have an Ekurhuleni logo, but it's going there. It's parked next to an Ekurhuleni truck, and they are doing something there with the contractors and so forth. That they send us these things and they complain, right? So that's the first way in which the waste thing becomes as part of OPEX in the budget that gets looted. Then the second way in which they've done it, and we did a comparative with your guys in Tshwane, just to understand what is the rate of some of the yellow plants. And then what they do in Ekurhuleni is very smart. So because we cannot have the quality of the lives of our people being compromised without collecting waste and everything else, when we don't pay them because municipalities then have cash flow problems, right? When you don't pay the round collection guys in the tender, they pull their services, right? But guess what we have done as officials? We have also created another tender for emergencies where we call plant hire. Now the rates for plant hire are double the rates for Ntwingi. So I don't pay Tolu for normal round collection. He pulls his trucks, and I'm forced to now go to plant hire. But when I arrive at plant hire, Tsepo is Tolu's cousin, and they are in business together. And Tsepo comes and borrows Tolu's trucks, which have been pulled out, which are using the municipal fuel. Because I can't have the streets dirty. So that level of sophistication, colleagues, is not just treasonous, but as far as I'm concerned, just pure evil. But that's what happens in municipalities, especially in metros, especially for those critical services that it is known that we cannot live without, right? But let's just go to the next slide before I say more career limiting statements. So I wanted us to also talk about the character of SA municipalities, but I won't go into too much of it because I think Billy did a good job in terms of infusing the issues around apartheid. But one of the things that I want us to remember is that the 1998 White Paper on Local Government acknowledged that apartheid fundamentally damaged the spatial environment of local government, making it common knowledge that as a political system, apartheid sought to unjustly influence space. Essentially, this resulted in spatial injustice, which was the thesis of apartheid city. It follows that the antithesis of apartheid city should be reflected on through spatial justice. And IYDF, all the things that we have done, acknowledge this thing. But in practice, and there's a big scam now happening in around our mine towns, generally in Gauteng, with the mine dumps, right? It's a huge scam that's happening. That has also come out of the people who are not in the mainstream of mining, realizing the value that they can get from influencing and working with Zamazamas, right? And I'm careful to say people who are not in the mainstream, so it's people like me and you, because they then realize that you can go for the mine dumps, clear the mine dumps, get whatever you get, but still use the Zamazamas and so forth. Those who are in the mainstream of mining have been using Zamazamas for their own issues to go around the legislation in terms of not going to Kwete's ministry and all of those things. So if you look at the apartheid city special designs, the apartheid city is the inner core, typical of Johannesburg, how you've explained it. And remember, if we add those other data sets, you get that real picture, right? Small, internal, mostly white and so forth. And then towards that periphery, you then have perhaps one of the most ingenious things that the apartheid government did. You have the buffer zones, right? And the buffer zones were created by many things. They were created by infrastructure in the main. Factories, mine dumps, highways, railroads, and so forth. And I always joke with colleagues and say, the reason I would never like to live inside Johannesburg is because it's the ring road it's an onion, right? Of course, from a planning, it makes sense, but it's capable to feed a particular interest, right? So then the question then begins, when we're dismantling the apartheid city, isn't it logical that the first infrastructure is supposed to tear down or to reuse is the buffer zones? Isn't that like the most logical things? And you see it with these old cities, right? The Brooklyn Harbor, the New York Harbor, they've all now become fashion districts and so forth. So it's possible But we must not wait for the cities to die first to do that, right? Because in New York, that's what they waited for. That area turn and then the population rose and so forth. They did. But we had a choice, a deliberate choice, to go into those buffer zones and deal with them for human settlement purposes. You see it how Hillbrow, Brakpan, all the towns that are on the air, well, that are within the city centers have now been abandoned. And there's nothing wrong that could have stopped us from doing that. So that's essentially the issues around spatial justice. So my point really is we must never stop, colleagues, problematizing the apartheid legacy and the question of apartheid. But most importantly, we need to be multidisciplinary about it, because I'm not an engineer, but every time I speak about this thing, people ask, "Do you study any engineering?" But we need to be multidisciplinary about the issues. Let's just go to the next slide so that we move a bit quicker. I want to see whether there are things that are still relevant there. So we've spoken about the issue of so Harvey as well as Lefebvre, and I prefer the issue of space because, and I liked what you say, the word infrastructure is a reflection of governance, right? But remember, everything happens in space. And for me, beyond it being a reflection of governance, it's a reflection of how far we go to transform our lived realities. And I think we have not done so. And Lefebvre there says a revolution that does not produce a new space has not realized its full potential. Indeed, it has failed in that it has not changed life itself, but merely changed ideological superstructures, institutions, and political apparatus. Now, we can't be a generation that accepts that. You made a good example about moving people from Atteridgeville to where, have not changed life itself. It's still as it is, and we have a huge task in terms of doing that. So essentially, space cannot be born, produced, unless it accentuates difference. So outside of class and racial, in particular racial class, particularly the racial question, if I blindfold any of you here and I take you to 1970, you won't tell the difference. Come again? If I blindfold any of us here and take you to 1970, you won't tell the difference in this country. And that's a problem. It's a huge problem. It's not even, it's a generationally challenging problem. You won't tell the difference. You would not. Except maybe for a young boy calling you boy. And then when you respond, you must say pass. And say you can't sit on that chair, or you're not even allowed to be here. All of us would be kicked out by now. It's winter. I'm sure apartheid had times. Yeah. So that's what one really tried to reflect on. But then the issue of changing life itself, this thing that how apartheid was built was this thing of understanding apartheid must be grounded on theory. It was to ensure that capitalist extraction of labor from black township occurs as quickly and as efficiently as possible to guarantee maximum surplus value. So that's what BRT also achieved. Right? So I detest the BRT thing because I think it's a waste of government money. I know now that I'm also a taxpayer, I care about where the money goes.
So what I'm gonna ask of you now, I like this graph.
Yeah, let's go to the next slide.
Yeah,
I think the other things are just.
So after the graph,
yeah,
we're gonna take almost like a food break, right? Because I want us to engage with you because we've been sitting for a while.
Yeah.
And I can see we're feeling it. So I want to take after this graph a comfort break, and then we want to start the conversation with finishing off his presentation, and then we're not going to have afterwards. We're getting into the meat. So I want when we get into the meat to be energized, have enough energy. So Let's go to this.
Yeah, so just briefly so that
Yeah.
we do take our leg break. So everything I've said is on the slide, and I think everything that the colleagues have said can be found here, right? Because infrastructure is not apolitical. Right, it's not apolitical, and the story of apartheid confirms that the issues that we're talking about. What have we fundamentally changed? You have not changed life itself, and I think Billy, the point that you make, hits home. A working class mother can find out that her daughter is pregnant the day she goes and gives birth. That's the reality in our country, right? Because infrastructure is very political, so the type of infrastructure you build is critical, but the where is also a powerful thing. The issue around the space, and Dr. Rashitenga Chilitsi, in his New Economies, New Cities, writes a bit about this, and I think it's quite critical. Of course, makes a bigger argument for producing new spaces in new areas, right? However, and it's cheaper. Yourselves, your engineers, I'm told it's cheaper to do a greenfield than a brownfield, right? But it's also cheaper to demolish. Yeah, so some of these buildings there's a building in Tshwane that was empty from the time I started university there. I think it was demolished a few years back. Right? Right. So if that science clearly says to us it's easier to build, what really stops the democratic government from demolishing in the cities, demolishing and building afresh? With the exception of some of the historic buildings in Europe and everything else, most of it was almost destroyed after World War II. It was, the Germans were flying in, bombarding everything, right? So why can't we build? So whilst I agree with what Chiliti says, but part of my thing is, why must we remain so-called polycentric? Why don't we just go to the center, demolish that which we need to demolish, and build that which we need to build?
And remake it after our heart's desire.
Yeah, right. But the problem in local government is this thing of budgets. Remember I spoke about the OPEX and CAPEX. So the funding model, and in the later slides, we'll talk about the issues around the funding model of local government. I think we all know the problems and everything else and how it was envisaged, now the review of the white paper and so forth. There's a lot of injustice being done. And the Tshwane case, and I'll pause here in terms of budgets, and you'll see how it links, colleagues. Reticulation is the responsibility of municipalities. So Tshwane took NERSA to court because ESCOM on new developments has been bulldozing municipalities, right? So I strongly believe, and it's something that when the rates were first, regional electricity distributors were first being spoken about, one was still in the process of studying them. Municipalities, particularly metros, can be self-sufficient if they did everything that the Constitution dictated. Reticulation of electricity is one of those. We speak about, someone spoke about building plans. Most of the building plan regulations that we have today are no different to what people can do in the spaces than what they were under apartheid. So in the township, there's still things you can't do. But in the urban area, right? And the issue of budgets is important because how budgets come through, those three things that I spoke about, adding as additional data sets on your thing. Municipal budgets are not, we have to end them. So no minister stands up and says, I'm giving but you waste 45% of it on water. I'm giving, and he's not gonna give you the grants anyway. So I'm giving a municipality so much money. We have to go earn it, right? Because the user pay thing and so forth. So it's quite important to understand once those budgets are there, once we've collected the rates and taxes and what do we do with it? Where do we do with it? What type of infrastructure do we build? Because how the democratic government has behaved in the past 30 years or so has been to waste money, and where Treasury wants to recover, the first people they punish is municipalities, especially metros. The metro trading service reforms is a good thing, a bit too late, imposing the 8% on the maintenance. I mean, could have been done a long time ago. But if we wake up to tomorrow, 5 November, and you've got this magic of different political parties, and you've got a mayor who wins decisively in blue, and comes and says, ESCOM, enough is enough. I'm going to reticulate all the areas, all developments, and so forth. All hell will break loose, because ESCOM needs the assets and everything else to go get the money and all that financing stories. But that capacity, constitutionally, and I don't think the Constitution, I carry the Constitution a lot whenever I get an opportunity to do more career limiting statements, because I think it also protects me. I don't think the drafters of the Constitution would have been misplaced about the role of local government, right? So we'll see later on in terms of the reforms that are being proposed. These are reforms that even when the rates were being spoken about, even when local taxation was being spoken about, we didn't want them. But the MDM is trying to wake up now, but I'm saying it's a bit late in the day because the political power that is contested, that colleagues spoke about, will not be in control of the progressives.
I'll pause there, but I'm going to pause.